Hello guys, welcome back to our booktube channel. It's been 6 years in quarantine and now I have a couple of books I wanted to share with you. So one of the first books that I read during those years that I've been alone in the apartment is The Abominable by Dan Simmons. I actually really like Dan Simmons, and I read a couple of his books before. So one of them is obviously Terror, and the other one I think is called The Druid. It's based on Charles Dickens kind of story, and the other famous writer from the 19th century who was doing like detective novels. But anyway, this book has nothing to do with both of them, but I think it's kind of stylistically and ideologically related to Terror, but going a little bit further, it's far less ideal than that. But anyway, a couple words about the story. So it talks about basically mountaineering and people who like to climb mountains. It starts as a story of basically an expedition that's going to the Everest to find out something that happened to the previous climbers that were going there. It's pretty straightforward. That if you like the stories where like a professional guy assembles a team of people who are like walking and doing some interesting tasks, so you're gonna like this one. If you like mountaineering and if you know all the terminology and all that stuff, you're gonna love this book. If you're into like adventure novels and you're interested in like the pre-World War II kind of setting, that's also a big plus for you. But if you're not really into mountaineering, if you don't really understand the terminology of people climbing stuff, this might prove to be quite boring. So I'm somewhere torn with this novel. So for once, I really like the adventure aspect, and then while I was reading it, it really felt like I was like back in my teenage years, enjoying like some kind of, I don't know, adventure story about people doing crazy stuff, going somewhere, like exploring. That's nice. But I think in this novel, Dan Simmons kind of got too much involved in this whole mountaineering aspect, and I don't think he himself is like a climber. But anyway, it wasn't that great in terms of like all the information about how do you climb mountains, what kind of gear you're using, and all the challenges that you sort of like encounter during those travels. But the story itself is nice, so it progresses nicely, and but kind of drags actually in the beginning, because the first maybe 60 or 70% of the book, nothing actually happens because people are just preparing for the journey. And I love that part actually, because I like this whole preparation for something that's coming. But when it finally comes to the action and when things are supposed to happen there, it's a little bit disappointing actually. And the stories, I don't want to spoil anything for you, so I don't even mention the names or stuff. The story is actually has a MacGuffin, like this crazy thing that everybody's looking after. And the MacGuffin itself, it's kind of related to the title. It's like a tiny spoiler, but the MacGuffin is awful. Like it's the most like unimaginative thing that you can think of, and it really doesn't show like all the talent of Dan Simmons. And I think his previous novels were so much better. This one, I guess it's somewhere in between. On my Goodreads review, I gave it like 3 stars. Frankly, I think it's 2 stars, but just because I like him so much, I gave it plus 1 point, I guess. But overall, I wouldn't say that you should read it. I think it's way too long and way too slow. And again, the whole resolution of the story is not that great for me. But overall, if you're like into mountaineering and climbing and you like just old school adventure novels, I think you might enjoy it. So give it a try. Maybe a couple I don't know, 100 pages. Go into it. If you're hooked, then you can finish it. But for me, I did finish it, but it was like I didn't like the ending, so to speak, right? So I can't really recommend it.